Good morning and welcome to you to our daily Devo today. It is April the 1st, so I'm not fooling you. I don't believe in doing that. And it's Wednesday, and our Devo is entitled Easter Hope for the World. 1 John 3:16. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay our lives down for our brothers and sisters. Each year at Easter, this is now Tim Keller talking, each year at Easter, I get to preach on the resurrection. In my sermon, I always say to my skeptical secular friends that even if they can't believe in the resurrection, they should want it to be true. That's a good point. Most of them care deeply about justice for the poor, alleviating hunger and disease, and caring for the environment. Yet many of them believe that the material world was caused by accident and that the world and everything in it will eventually simply burn up in the death of the sun. They find it discouraging that so few people care about justice without realizing that their own worldview undermines any motivation to make the world a better place. Why sacrifice for the needs of others if in the end nothing we do will make any difference? If the resurrection of Jesus happened, however, that means there's infinite hope and reason to pour ourselves out for the needs of the world. This is one of those devos today that's pretty much telling us we need to be like Jesus, sacrificed himself, who came for the purpose of reaching out to others. He came to declare freedom for the prisoners, and all that he mentions in Luke chapter 4, which is he's quoting from Isaiah in the Old Testament, saying that same thing. And he was always reaching out to those in need, always reaching out to those who couldn't help themselves, be it the sick, be it the poor, whatever the case may be. That was his target audience, for lack of a better term. Those are the ones he came to look for. The weak, the weary, he invites them. Come unto me, all you who are weak and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I will take a load off your shoulders. You can team up with me, and yes, you'll be asked to do things, but it won't be nearly as difficult as the situation you're in now. That's his approach to those around him, whether it be a woman whose only son had died. He sees that, he hears her weeping, and he goes up to her and raises her son back from the dead. He does that a number of times for children of parents, and sometimes he doesn't even have to go there. He was approached a number of times from people who were from out of town, and they were asking him for healing for a servant, for a family member, whatever the case may be. And he would begin to talk to them. One time, a guy said, "Oh, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. You just speak the word, and my child will be healed." And Jesus honored that because that was quite the faith statement for sure. But this is a very brief one today, and it's interesting the depth that it has in it. That you have this group of people who are they care deeply. He says for justice for the poor, alleviating hunger and disease, and caring for the environment, and yet many of them believe that the material world was caused by accident and that the world and everything in it will eventually simply burn up in the death of the sun. They find it discouraging that so few people care about justice without realizing, and this is key, that their own worldview undermines any motivation to make the world a better place. In other words, they're doing what Jesus told us not to do, to try and get the speck out of that person's eye when I've got a 2x4 sticking out of mine. That's pretty much the picture. Um, they're wanting these things to be done, but they're not doing them. And they don't think anybody's ever going to do them, and they think it's just going to go like that till the earth is burned up by the exploding sun and melting it all away. But the reality is, why sacrifice for the needs of others if in the end nothing we do will make any any difference? In other words, what good is our sacrifice going to do in a world so filled with problems? And I understand that question. If the resurrection of Jesus happened, however, that means there's infinite hope and reason to pour ourselves out for the needs of others. There's reasons to do that. Number one, we've been asked to do that. That's part of our becoming like Jesus, to love our enemies, to seek to meet the needs of those who are hurting. Um, and there's plenty of that to go around in the world today. People who are starving. We're living in a time of hatred and war. We're reading in our papers, we're seeing in the news that bombs are being dropped on people who have no part in carrying out war back against the people who are shooting the rockets at them. They don't have the ability to do it. And just without any rhyme or reason, bombs are dropped in neighborhoods, on schools. That was the first thing that was hit in the bombing of Iran. A school with over 100 girls in it. Most of them died in that. Because of the things I search and the things I want to see succeed, I get a lot of things on my Facebook telling me about the mothers who can they've gone hungry, they're starving, therefore they can't nurse their babies anymore and their babies are dying. That kind of stuff is not unusual in our world anymore, and it's a sad thing to say. We've all been created, as the Bible says, in the image of God, but we're not being very godlike in how we care for people, in how we analyze situations. Um, whose fault is it, kind of thing. And we always come down on our side without investigating the other side. Um, we can't really pass judgment on people we don't know, and what their priorities are. We need to see the need, because remember, Jesus met the needs of Samaritans. He used a Samaritan as be the hero in one of his parables. He tells his disciples to go out into all the earth, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. In other words, nobody's crossed off the list here. Don't care who they are, don't care what their religion is, don't care what their worldview is. All that we should know and realize as God's children is we need to show God's love to them. We need to care about them. We can't pass judgment. Judge not. Matthew 7:1, judge not, lest you be judged. I've heard that quoted by people who don't want anybody to tell them how to live, but they misunderstand it. The way Jesus words that in Matthew 7:1 is, don't make yourself judge, jury, and executioner. Because if you do that to others, it will come back to you. That's what he's trying to tell us in that very short verse but he wants us to know we don't sit in a seat of authority over people's lives and souls and what they say. We need to try and get a grip on what the scenario is. And we've said this so many times in our in our Sunday school classes, in our prayer meetings, that we don't know what problems that person has. We see them, they look grouchy. We hear them back talk somebody. Maybe they give the checkout person at the grocery store, they start giving them a hard time. And let's be honest, our first response is, oh boy, and we judge. I mean, the way we look at them, the way we think about them, we are judging them, and we don't know. We don't know what they're going through. That became so alive to me after Sue passed, because I felt I'm in the grocery store by myself now. And now every aisle I went down was a memory, and I was so happy that that's where Sue and I shopped all the time, and we made friends there. There were like three different people throughout the store. We'd get up their aisle and we'd always pause and have some kind of conversation about something. Um, but that was, I mean, that was an encouragement to me. There's still at least two of those ladies there. I don't see them every time I go to the store, but I know that they care about me, and we'll stop and chat and discuss things of the world and how work is going for them, and they ask me how I'm doing and those kinds of things. That's hope. That's hope. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to do. It's what we ought to do. It's more than wanting, it's what we ought to do, because that's what Jesus did. He cared for everybody. Didn't matter where they were from, but he understood them. He understood them. And that's something I read and had never realized before, but it goes with the Good Friday 7 words from the cross. To each person who was there, whether it was the two guys being crucified with him, whether it was the Roman soldiers mistreating him and punishing him and doing what they did to him to crucify him, um, to his mother, the foot of the cross, and John, the disciple who it says a couple of times, the disciple whom he loved. He has something to say to each and every one of them in all their diversity. He knows what they need. He knows what they need to hear, and that's what he does. It would be so great if we, as those who bear the name Christian, would be seen for that. To see that we love and care for others, because they will appreciate it. They will appreciate it. We again, the gym's been open for basketball for 3 months now, something like that. More and more guys are showing up, and without fail, at least from a couple of the guys as they leave on a Saturday morning, thanks, Pastor, for having us letting us come and play here. Okay, but they've seen that and they appreciate that, and those are the kinds of things we need to do. If we're if we're like these other people in the devotion today that Tim Keller lists, if we're going to want things to change, guess what? Better do it. We better figure out a way to do our at least to do our part in that. And it can't be. It's not always easy. That's for sure. We're living in a time when either you take sides or you don't, and it's a tough decision. If we're going to check in with the Lord first, And we can't call him Lord if we don't do what he says. To check in with him and ask, is my outlook on this right? Is my opinion right? Do I have any right at all to second guess that person and basically say something happened to them? Oh, they got what was coming to them. If you're going to say that about that person, guess what? God just might say that about you. On the judgment seat day rolls around, how many of us want to hear, well, you're going to get what's coming to you? I don't want to get what's coming to me. Um, Hope for the world. And if we want that hope to spread, we need to live it, we need to share it, and we need to do all we can to make it happen. Help people who are living in darkness to see a great light. Blessings to you today on this Wednesday, April the 1st.